A clean and organized kitchen is not always about having more storage, better cabinets, or the perfect system. Very often, it is about rhythm. Because most kitchens do not become messy all at once. They become messy slowly. A mug left on the counter, packaging that stays out too long, a sink that fills up overnight, small things with no home, items that keep moving from one surface to another. And after a while, the kitchen starts to feel heavier than it really is, not because it is a bad kitchen, but because it has become difficult to reset. One of the quiet strengths of Danish homes is that they often feel calm without trying too hard, not empty, not sterile, not staged like a showroom, just easy to live in. And that ease usually comes from habits more than decoration. In this video, I want to share 7 Danish habits that help keep the kitchen clean and organized in a realistic way. These are not deep cleaning rules. They are not perfection rules. They are small habits that make everyday order feel lighter, easier, and much more natural to maintain. Let's begin. If there is one habit that changes the feeling of a kitchen almost immediately, it is this. Reset the sink every evening. Not necessarily the entire kitchen, not every cabinet, not every drawer, just the sink. Because the sink is often the emotional center of the kitchen. When it is full of dishes, the whole room feels unfinished, even if the counters are fairly clean. Even if the rest of the space is not that bad. A crowded sink creates a feeling of carryover, as if yesterday is still sitting there waiting for you. But when the sink is empty, rinsed, and reset, the kitchen feels lighter. It feels ready again. This is what makes the habit so powerful. It closes the day. It gives the room a small sense of completion, and it makes the next morning feel easier before anything has even begun. In many homes, the problem is not that the dishes are impossible. It is that they are postponed just long enough to change the mood of the room. So the habit here is simple. Before the evening ends, clear the sink as much as you can. Wash what needs washing. Load what needs loading. Rinse away the residue, wipe the metal or ceramic surface. Let the sink return to zero. That small reset does more than clean a fixture. It changes the atmosphere of the kitchen. And sometimes, that is exactly what keeps small mess from becoming tomorrow's bigger mess. A calm kitchen usually has one very obvious quality: the counters can breathe. This does not mean the kitchen has nothing in it. It means the surfaces are not carrying the weight of everything. When counters are crowded, the kitchen starts to feel visually noisy. You notice bottles, packets, utensils, appliances, fruit bowls, jars, paper, cords, and random little objects all at once. Even useful things begin to feel stressful when they are always competing for attention. But when the counters are mostly clear, the kitchen becomes easier in every possible way. It is easier to wipe, easier to cook, easier to put groceries down, easier to think. This is one of the most practical Danish habits. Do not let the main work surfaces become permanent storage. Keep out only what truly deserves daily access. Maybe that is the kettle, maybe the coffee setup. Maybe one cutting board, one bowl, one soap dispenser that actually looks good there. But beyond that, empty space is not wasted space. It is function. It gives the kitchen flexibility. It gives the eye a place to rest. And it helps the room feel clean even before you have cleaned everything perfectly. A lot of clutter is not about quantity alone. It is about visibility. Too many things on the counter make the kitchen feel like it is always in use, even when it is not. So one quiet rule can be this: protect the counters. Not because empty counters look impressive, but because clear surfaces make daily life easier, and the easier something is to maintain, the more likely it is to stay calm. A kitchen becomes much easier to organize when things live near where they are used. This sounds simple, but it changes a lot. Many people organize by category alone. All mugs in one place, all spices in another, all containers somewhere else, all tools in one large drawer. Technically organized, yes, but not always practical. A calmer kitchen often works by zones. Mugs near the kettle or coffee area, oil, salt, and the most used spices near the stove, boards and knives near the prep area, containers near the place where leftovers are packed away. This makes the kitchen feel more natural to move through. You do not keep crossing the room for tiny tasks. You do not keep placing things temporarily because their real home feels inconvenient. You do not keep creating micro messes just because the layout works against your routine. And that is really the point. Organization should support movement. It should follow how you actually cook, clean, pour, store, and reset. Not just how a system looks on paper. A Danish-style kitchen often feels calm because it has quiet logic built into it. Things are where your hands expect them to be. The room does not fight you. It helps you. So, look at your kitchen in terms of use. Where do drinks happen? Where does chopping happen? Where does cooking happen? Where does cleaning happen? Then let storage follow that rhythm. Because once the kitchen matches the flow of real life, tidiness becomes much less effortful. Every kitchen has a certain kind of clutter that does not belong to one perfect category. The clip for an open bag, a receipt, tea refills, vitamin packets, a candle lighter, rubber bands, a random charger, small practical things that are not exactly kitchen tools, but somehow always end up there. These are the objects that create visual noise, not because they are huge, but because they scatter. And scattered clutter is often what makes a kitchen feel restless. A useful Danish habit is to contain that noise instead of trying to eliminate every tiny object completely. One basket, one tray, one simple container. That is enough. The goal is not to hide chaos beautifully. The goal is to stop visual drift from spreading across every surface. Because one contained hotspot feels manageable, 10 tiny piles around the room do not. This habit works especially well in lived-in homes because it respects reality. It accepts that some things need a temporary home, but it also gives that temporary home a limit. And limits create calm. When the basket fills up, it gets sorted. When it is empty, the kitchen feels lighter, and while it is in use, it keeps the room from fragmenting into small pockets of mess. Sometimes organization is not about perfect placement. Sometimes it is about preventing visual leakage. And one basket can do a surprising amount of that work. One reason cooking can feel exhausting is that it often creates two separate jobs. First, you cook. Then, after eating, you face the full evidence of having cooked. Boards, knives, bowls, packaging, oil splatter, spoons, crumbs, pans, and a counter that suddenly feels much smaller than it did an hour ago. A calmer kitchen depends on reducing that second wave, which is why one of the best habits is to clean as you cook, not in a tense or obsessive way, just gently, continuously, in the gaps that already exist. While something simmers, rinse the board. While food is in the oven, wipe the counter. Throw away packaging immediately. Return ingredients once you know you no longer need them. Put one tool away before taking the next one out. These tiny movements prevent buildup, and more importantly, they prevent the emotional crash that comes after a meal when the energy is gone, but the mess is fully visible. This habit turns cleaning from one big task into many very small ones. That is why it feels lighter. You are not waiting for the kitchen to collapse into disorder and then rescuing it at the end. You are guiding it gently the whole time. And that is very much in line with calm, Danish-style living. Less drama, less build-up, less heroic cleanup. Just a kitchen that stays closer to order as life happens inside it. A kitchen can be beautifully organized and still be annoying to use. That usually happens when the most important things are not the easiest things to reach. The plates you use every day are too high. The good mugs are tucked behind other items. The oils are stored in a way that makes cooking less natural. The things you need most often are somehow the hardest to access. And when that happens, organization stops helping. It starts creating friction. A practical Danish habit is to let everyday life have the best access. The most used items should be the simplest to grab and the simplest to put back. Everyday plates at a comfortable height. Favorite mugs grouped together. Frequently used tools in one easy drawer. Cooking basics where cooking actually happens. This creates a kind of quiet permission in the kitchen. The room becomes easy to use well. And that matters because difficulty creates disorder. When something is awkward to reach, it often gets left out. When something is annoying to return, it ends up on the nearest surface. When storage is too clever, people stop following it. Good organization should feel almost invisible. It should not impress you with complexity. It should support you with ease. And that is often the difference between a kitchen that looks organized for one day and a kitchen that stays organized every week. Daily habits matter, but they usually are not enough on their own, because kitchens drift. A few extra items stay out. The fridge gets crowded. A shelf starts collecting things that do not belong there. A towel gets tired. A packet gets forgotten in the back. A drawer begins to lose its logic. This is why a weekly kitchen reset matters so much. Not a huge, deep clean. Not an exhausting project. Just a short weekly rhythm that returns the kitchen to itself. Maybe that means checking the fridge, throwing out what is finished, wiping one shelf, putting stray items back, clearing surfaces properly, refreshing the kitchen towel, replacing the sponge, emptying the visual noise basket, and bringing the room back to calm. This weekly reset prevents slow disorder from becoming normal. It catches the mess while it is still light. And that is one of the best lessons in keeping any room organized. Do not wait until the space feels overwhelming. Return to it before that. A Danish approach often works because it values rhythm over intensity. Small maintenance done regularly is more powerful than occasional effort done dramatically. And in the kitchen, that changes everything. Because once the room has a rhythm, it stops needing rescue. It simply needs returning. So these are the 7 habits. Reset the sink every evening. Keep the counters mostly clear. Store by zone, not just by category. Let one basket catch the visual noise. Clean as you cook, not only after. Keep everyday items easy to reach. Do a weekly kitchen rhythm reset. None of these habits are extreme.